Imagine a time before warmth, before comfort in darkness or safety in the night. A world quiet, somber, held captive by silence. Humans lived without fire, shivering under pale starlight, afraid of shadows that lingered too close, and gods who watched too closely. It was a time when mortals existed only to please Olympus, obedient, meek, controlled. But above them, Prometheus, a titan unlike any other, looked down with compassion. They say he was reckless, arrogant even. But what if he was simply the bravest among gods and mortals alike? What if his rebellion was driven not by pride or defiance, but by something deeper, something quietly powerful? Prometheus saw humanity struggle. He saw their potential locked beneath fear. And in a daring act, he did what no one else had ever dreamed. He stole from the gods. Yet the gods' fury wasn't about a stolen flame, as history might have you believe. Fire alone, after all, is nothing but heat and light. Temporary, tameable. No, what the gods truly feared was subtler, stronger. What Zeus saw, trembling in the blaze Prometheus gifted to humankind, was not mere flames flickering in the dark. He saw courage sparking in weary eyes. He saw hearts no longer resigned, but inspired to challenge their fate. He saw clearly the first fragile stirrings of hope. And hope was dangerous. Far more dangerous than fire, because hope doesn't fade when night falls. It lingers, quietly, defiantly, waiting to ignite the next dawn. Before the flame, there was only cold. Nights dragged on, long, damp, and silent, and the wind whispered that the world would never change. Humans shivered, not just from the chill, but from a never-ending ignorance. They didn't cook, didn't forge, didn't create. They only endured. Their eyes, though alive, reflected only the image of the gods, never the light of their own thoughts, because everything they knew came from above, from the thunder of Zeus, the command of Apollo, the silence of Hades. Mortal will meant nothing. Their desires had no voice, and their hands had no flame. It was in this world that Prometheus watched and grew restless. Unlike his fellow Titans, who preferred forgetfulness, or the Olympians, who demanded devotion, Prometheus saw something in mankind that not even they could see, a dormant potential. He didn't see servants. He saw seeds buried beneath fear. And day after day, he descended in secret, walking among humans unseen. He saw a child trying to shape clay with bare hands, an old man warming himself on a stone touched by sunlight, a young one staring at the sky, wondering if there was something beyond the stars. And then Prometheus understood. What humanity needed wasn't pity, it was power. Not the power to rule, but the power to transform. And that power, he knew, burned in only one place, the sacred fire of Olympus. Guarded in the celestial halls, fed by Zeus's thunder and the breath of Aeolus, the fire was the spark of creation, the secret of the gods. No mortal had ever seen it, and no immortal would ever dare offer it to earth, except Prometheus. Because when he saw humankind so close to greatness, yet chained to submission, he realized the greatest crime would be to do nothing. And so, without warning, without permission, without weapons or armies, Prometheus made a choice. He would set humanity alight. But to light an entire world, he would have to defy the skies. And to defy the skies meant provoking Zeus himself. Prometheus would climb Olympus, not to ask, but to steal. He waited for the stars to turn away. When the gods were resting in their golden halls, when Olympus pulsed in quiet slumber, Prometheus climbed, not as a thief in the shadows, but as a bearer of something sacred. With steady hands, he reached into the flame that only gods had touched. It didn't burn him. It recognized him. Some say he carried it in a fennel stalk, hollowed and hidden. Others say he walked boldly, letting it blaze in his palm like a sun. What matters is this. He brought it down through clouds and silence, down through mountain winds and twilight air, down to earth. And there, beneath the trembling stars, Prometheus knelt. He lit the first fire. The humans gathered around, cautious at first, then transfixed. Light danced on their faces for the first time. They saw each other. They saw color. They saw possibilities. The fire crackled, and so did their imaginations. They began to cook, to mold, to craft, to forge. They no longer shivered. They no longer bowed with such certainty. They began to think for themselves. That night, something changed, not just in the cold air, but in the very rhythm of humanity. The gods felt it. Zeus, seated on his throne of storm clouds, heard laughter where there had once been prayers. He felt the earth shift, not in tremors, but in will, and he knew. Fire had not merely warmed them, it had awakened them. Prometheus had not just broken a law, he had broken a balance. The gift wasn't fire, it was dignity, and that was unforgivable. So Zeus answered. He summoned chains. He summoned punishment so eternal, so brutal, that even the stars dared not look. Prometheus was bound to a cliff at the edge of the world, his arms stretched by divine iron, his body offered to the sky. And every day, an eagle would come, not to kill him, but to devour his liver. And each night, the wound would close again, only for the torment to return with dawn, a cycle unbroken. A sentence meant to crush any notion of rebellion. But even as his body was torn and healed again and again, Prometheus did not regret. He had given humanity a spark, a reason to rise, a power no god could truly reclaim. Yet deep in Zeus's silence, something stirred, because he knew this flame was only the beginning. What Prometheus had truly unleashed wasn't just warmth or light. It was an idea, and ideas, once born, can't be chained. The gods had punished fire, but what they feared was hope. Fire was just the surface, warmth, light, tools. The gods could tolerate that, manage it even. But something else began to glow within mankind. Something the gods had not granted, but Prometheus had awakened. Hope. Not loud or bold at first. It whispered. In the eyes of a child staring into a flame. In the hands of a woman shaping her first blade. In the breath of a man who no longer prayed for rescue, but planned his own harvest. This was not mere rebellion. This was belief in change, and belief, once sparked, doesn't vanish. Zeus understood something the mortals did not yet grasp. Fire warms the skin, but hope warms the soul. Fire gives energy, but hope gives direction. And while fire can be extinguished, hope has no single flame. It spreads in silence. It nestles in dreams. It survives even where gods are absent. That was the true betrayal. Prometheus had not given them fire. He had given them the audacity to imagine more than obedience, more than fate, more than what the gods had written. And once humanity tasted that, there would be no going back. So Zeus devised another plan. He would not just punish Prometheus. He would strike at the heart of what Prometheus had planted. Not with thunder, not with storms, but with a gift. A woman crafted by divine hands, beautiful, curious, perfect in every flaw. Pandora. She was not a punishment. She was a mirror, created by Hephaestus, adorned by Aphrodite, taught by Athena, given words by Hermes. She was the first woman, yes, but also the vessel. For what? A jar. Within it, sorrow, disease, betrayal, old age, madness, hunger. Every weight Zeus wished upon mankind, now that they had dared to rise. Pandora did not know what she carried, only that it was forbidden to open it. But curiosity, also a gift, swayed her. And the moment the seal was broken, the world changed again. Out poured chaos, like smoke through a cracked door. Misery spread. Pain became constant. The humans, once emboldened, now bent beneath invisible burdens. Zeus watched, satisfied. But something didn't go according to plan. Because inside that jar, at the very bottom, beneath all that suffering, something had stayed behind. Not fear, not guilt, not submission, but hope. Delicate, persistent, untouched. Whether it remained trapped or was the last to leave? The myths never agree, but this they do agree on. Hope survived. And in doing so, it became more powerful than anything Zeus had unleashed. For even as men wept and suffered, even as they aged and forgot and fell, they kept rising. Because in the quietest corners of the soul, one spark still flickered. A gift not even the gods could smother. And that gift was hope. They say she opened it out of curiosity. But maybe curiosity is not the flaw we think it is. Maybe it's the first flicker of independence, the quiet refusal to accept what we're told to fear. Pandora was not wicked. She was not a curse. She was human, before humanity knew what that truly meant. And when she turned the lid, when the seal of the jar cracked, it wasn't evil she released. It was truth, pain, yes, aging, sickness, betrayal, despair, but also clarity, the rawness of reality, the knowledge that joy and suffering walk side by side. Humanity had been given the flame, and now it was given the shadows it would cast. And yet, when the winds died down, when all the noise had passed, when the darkness had spread across the world, the jar was not empty. At the bottom, faint but pulsing, something remained. A shimmer, a whisper, a presence that did not flee, but waited. Hope. The ancient Greeks argued for centuries about what that meant. Was it a blessing? Was it a trick? Some said hope was left behind to comfort mankind. Others feared it was the cruelest illusion. The one thing that made people endure unbearable pain, believing tomorrow would be better. But the myth doesn't answer. It doesn't need to. Because even now, thousands of years later, that question still burns. And still, we hope. We hope when we don't understand. We hope when we are hurt. We hope even when logic says not to. And perhaps that's the most divine thing about us. Fire gave us tools. But hope gave us endurance, a reason to rise after war, to rebuild after loss, to reach after everything we've already lost. Not because we are certain, but because somewhere, deep inside, we believe. Just as Prometheus once believed when he defied Olympus and lit a match in the dark. Hope, like fire, spreads quietly. It hides in memory, in lullabies, in stories passed from one generation to the next. And even if gods grow silent, even if myths fade into the stars, one truth remains. Hope endures. Somewhere, even now, a child stares into a candle and wonders about the stars. A mother hums softly by the fire, dreaming of a world gentler than the one outside her window. An old man whispers to himself, and in that whisper, there is still longing. We call it resilience. We call it optimism. We call it madness sometimes. But in truth, it is the same thing Prometheus saw, the quiet, aching belief that life can be more than what it is today. The world still carries the weight of that jar. We still suffer. We still stumble through loss, through war, through silence. we still find ourselves sitting in the dark, wondering if anyone hears us, if anything ever truly changes. And yet, we try again. We rebuild. We reach out. We plant seeds we'll never see bloom, because hope doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't demand. It waits. In the cracks of grief, in the lull after storms, in the stillness of midnight thoughts, it flickers. And when you feel it, that tiny warmth deep in your chest, know this: you carry the same fire. You are part of that myth. You too are the reason Prometheus defied the sky. Not because you're powerful, but because you're capable of hope. And that was always the danger. Not the fire in your hands, but the light in your soul. So rest now. And if tomorrow feels uncertain, just remember, long ago, a titan believed in you. The story ends, but the flame does not. Somewhere, it still glows, not in temples or thrones, but in quiet rooms, between closed eyes and unspoken thoughts. The gods have fallen silent, but you are still here, breathing, listening, carrying a spark passed down through myths and memory. You may not remember the names or the punishments, but your bones know the weight of hope. It lives in the way you rise after falling, in the way you reach for warmth when the world grows cold. You carry Prometheus in your persistence, you carry Pandora in your wonder, and you carry something older still, the belief that tomorrow matters. Let that be enough for now. Let yourself rest. The sky still watches, the stars still whisper, and the ember, that small, defiant ember, will wait for you. It always does. So let go. Let the night soften the edges. Let dreams carry you past the thunder, past the cliffs, into the hush between stories. You've heard enough for tonight, and if you listen closely, beneath the silence, you may still hear it flicker. Hope.